I've been trying to think about how I'm going to start this video, so I'm just going to plunge straight in. Like lots of other people at the moment, I am definitely feeling that horrible grip, their clammy hand of anxiety. It's, for me, not so much to do with COVID, although that clearly doesn't help. It's been something that I've been struggling with for a few weeks now, and I'm determined to try and help myself out of it, and I'm hoping that this video is maybe going to help you too if you are also struggling. One of the things that I haven't talked about before is that I have Crohn's disease, and it's an inflammatory bowel disease. There is loads of information out there about it, so if you really want to go and have a look, then there are lots of YouTube channels and places where you can find out information. But it's something for me that I always seem to have a flare up when I am stressed or anxious about something, and I'm going to make a video later on this year kind of exploring how I deal with it in terms of my work situation. So if that's something that you think might be useful, then keep an eye out for that video. I have had periods of time in my life before where I felt quite anxious, notably the period of time when I looked after my mum for about 6 years before she died, and that was really stressful. That was a really, really tough time. It culminated with her dying when she was living at a home, and that home was put under investigation for several of the deaths that had happened around about the time that my mum died, and she was one of those people. So the sort of 18 months after her death was pretty stressful because there was an investigation going on, there was an inquest, and anyway, it eventually came to they weren't going to press any charges, which I think was the right decision. So that was quite stressful, and I was, I think, quite anxious at times then, but it's nothing like the stress that I've been under recently. I don't want to go on too much about it because you don't come here for videos on me moaning. You know me, I'm quite a chipper, happy kind of person. I see a lot of joy in life, and I think I'm generally quite a happy sort of person. But I do have these periods of time, like I'm sure everybody does, where things happen and perhaps you're in a situation where it's really difficult to see your way out, and you get these, I mean, I've been suffering from palpitations and shortness of breath and intrusive thoughts, catastrophizing about things. You know, the list is pretty long in terms of things that you can feel when you are having anxiety, and it's not, if you haven't ever felt it, then it might not seem like a big deal, but it honestly makes you feel really unwell, and you get this, you're in this fight or flight situation where you're getting flooded with adrenaline, and if that happens over a long period of time, then it can lead to all sorts of other physical issues, and I think that's what I've been struggling with lately. So how can you cope? What methods can you use? Well, I've been doing all the sort of things like meditation, but also prayer can really help if you are you know, someone who prays. It has that same sort of feeling of it just calms your mind a bit. But also things like breathing exercises, because if you do the belly breathing or yogic breathing, that calms down your sympathetic nervous system, which is the one responsible for fight or flight. And there are lots of other things like going for a walk every day, looking at nature, relating to other people, talking to other people. But also, for me, as a creative person, I find doing something creative really helps. And I've talked quite a bit in my live streams about drawing from life, so observational drawing. I find that really helps me to focus because I'm looking so intently at something that there isn't room for all of these other thoughts and unpleasant feelings to come through. And that really reflects in something I was listening to last night on an audio book, a Ruby Wax book called Frazzled, I think it's called. And she talks about how with CBT, cognitive behaviour therapy, if you zone in on one sense, then because of your focus, you don't let in all those other things that are otherwise going to create havoc in your mind. And that's really what I'm talking about, is that you're using your eyes to do something, create something. And it doesn't have to be drawing or painting. It could be perhaps you're making a pot, or perhaps you're a poet, perhaps you're writing something. Writing's brilliant for, you know, these sorts of situations. But maybe you're someone who likes gardening, or I don't know, get some Play-Doh. If you've got children, get Play-Doh and use that, because that's great. Sort of has a lot of therapeutic values to it. So what I'm going to do today is I have created an idea for a painting, and it's got a cat in it because I'm thinking strong, independent thinking, but you know, living now in the moment, because that's what animals do. They don't have anxiety where they're worrying about the future, and they don't have depression because they're not worrying about the past. They are now in the moment. So I've got a cat in it, and then I've got some trees and bushes that have got repeating patterns in them, because that's something, if you feel like you can't draw and you don't feel like an artist, then doing repeating patterns or a colouring book, something like that, is really good. And if you're in the UK, or if you can get UK TV, on Channel 4 there has been a great programme called Grayson's Art Club, and I'd highly recommend that. I've been binge watching it, and it's been so interesting to see lots of other people who are not working as artists. They are working in the NHS, or you know, they're all sorts of things. Mums staying at home, or people working in their spare rooms for the time being, but they're people who are doing some sort of artistic, creative thing, and it covers all sorts of things. So I'd highly recommend going and having a look at that if you are a creative, artistic person, because that's definitely kept my mind going in the right direction. So let's have a look and see how I get on with the painting. hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed doing it. It definitely kept my mind busy in a good focused way for quite some time. If you've got something that you have done, or that you're inspired to do something like this, then do tag me in anything that you do and upload to social media, because I'd love to see it. Next week I will be looking at the relationship between art and nature, and why it's so important to artists, even if you don't end up drawing it or painting it or filming it or writing poetry about it. Stay safe, lots of love, and I'll see you next time. Nanu nanu!